So, hey hello all, welcome to Science Review. Today I'm gonna give a non-spoiler review about the Spartacus series, which does covers all the 4 seasons of it. And I do really love this series a lot. And in this video, I do want to mention why this series does work out really very well for me. So let's get into the video. And before getting into that, I do want to mention I never watched any series other than Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time, and I do tend to believe that these two are the best series ever been made. But after watching the series, I got a need to change my mind. Spartacus series is even better than a Game of Thrones in every way. Uh, so do watch this video completely. I do want to confess you something at the very end of this video. So let's get into that. The first thing which I do want to give is the shout out to all the showrunners because they do picturize all these things really very well, and they do took the middle stand here, picturizing the conflict between the gladiators and the Roman Empire in a perfect way, and they do explain all these things in a really very raw way, right? And it is really very difficult to make such an bold scenes out there. I mean, in India, we people are really very conservative, and India can never produce a series like this for even 100 years in the future itself, because people here does create controversies for even on small things, and we do have a lot of historical figures which can able to keep an good plot narratives like the great King Akbar or Aurangzeb or Babur, and even the Rajput emperors like Princess Russia or let's take Chhatrapati Shivaji. I mean, stories are everywhere, right? But you gotta need to give a true essence to it, which is somewhat lacking in Indian country. So yeah, I mean, these things won't looked upon really very great to you, but as an Indian, I do felt, man, they can able to express everything in the series. So yeah, that's a really very big deal for me. So the second thing which I do want to mention here is they do designed all the important characters really very well. I mean, it is easier to write and screenplay for Game of Thrones series because John is been there in Night's Watch, and Tyrion is been there in King's Landing, and Robb Stark is there in River Run, and Daenerys is been there in Essos. So when these characters does appear on the screen, we can able to understand which character you got to need to follow out there. But here, Spartacus, Crixus, and Canicus, and all three characters does operated in the series together, right? But even in all this list, they can able to give importance to all these three characters equally. I mean, they do explain the conflict between and the ideology differences between Spartacus and Crixus on a whole next level, and their intricate decisions and their way of taking the leadership. I mean, every controversies and every conversation it has added a lot of things to the storyline, and even we got to need to appreciate the Gannicus too, because he is the one who does have a perfect character arc here, right? And amidst of all the conflicts between Spartacus and Crixus, I mean, Gannicus does manage to even appear really very handsome to the plot line, right? And yes, they do picturize to all these three main characters really very well, and it's not an easy thing to do. So the next thing which I do want to mention here is they do design all the female characters really very strong. I mean, a lot of showrunners don't understand how a strong female characters does look like. They do give an weapon to the female characters and they do make them to fight in the war, but that is not an ideal strong female characters, right? I mean, in this series, the characters like Lydia and Lucretia does appear to be really very strong characters other than all the warrior women here. And these two characters does having a conversation. I mean, you gotta need to praise the script writers for the story, and they all their political integrated decisions and their manipulation and extremely competitive nature. I mean, their motivation, everything has been defined really very well. And without these two characters, I mean, the series would look and slightly downgraded. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoyed all these characters out there. And the next thing is each and every sequence in the series does appear to be really very important to the storyline. I mean, there isn't any scene which I can able to say. I mean, you can able to chop off this storyline and the story would remain the same. I can't even name a single sequence like that. Every sequence does added something to the storyline, like a character growth or the plot progression or building up the conflict between the two characters. I mean, it is really very difficult for the screenplay writers in order to picturizing everything in a perfect way. So yeah, we got to need to give a shout out to that aspect too. And the last thing which I do want to mention here is even the side characters does have the same importance as the main three, because the characters like Onimus and Lucia and does have a lot of importance to the storyline, right? And Barrow, man, he does appear for a really very short period of time, but he's really very impactful. Even with those 8 to 10 episodes, he does manage to have a separate place in our heart. And even Nevia's character, I do enjoy her character too. There are a lot of fans that do hate her character for manipulating Crixus in getting into his own death. And I mean, every character does appeal to me really very well. And even on the other side, let's take the Roman Empire, even the characters like Sepia and Sepius, they do appear for a really very short period of time, but they are really very impactful. And the Roman Captain General, his character has been designed really very well. And Asher, I, I, I mean, there are characters like Asher in every TV series, right? And they do make the storyline really very interesting to go through. And even though they are evil, we have a slight bit of heart for them. They do continue on getting into the further seasons so that we can able to enjoy these characters. And Marcus and his son, who does appear on the final season, does manage to have a separate place in my heart, even though in the negative way. And Julius Caesar, I mean, I do wasted all my history classes. I mean, we do have learned about the Pompey War and all the kings in the ancient Rome Empire, but I didn't pay any real attention to all these lessons in my class. I do thought history is really very boring, but after watching the series, I I do want to get into the class and want to listen to all these stories. Man, this is somewhat really very impactful series in my life. Maybe if you are still there in your schooling, do watch the series. Maybe it can able to increase your interest on the subject. But yes, this is 18 plus and it does have a lot of violence content and sexual contents, right? But man, if these two is being chopped up from the story, I mean, this would have got even more recognition from the fandom across the globe. So yeah, that's all the five things which I do want to mention. These things does elevated this series on a whole next level. And by the start of this video, I do wanted to mention at the very end that I do want to confess something to you, right? And I do want to confess that I didn't watch this series at all. I mean, do listen to my queries completely. I do watch one of YouTube videos where someone in my regional language does explain this series on a 12-hour long video, does explain and covered all the important scenes, and he does manage to give a perfect feel about the series, and it does save me a lot of time. I mean, I won't want to regret myself for watching this YouTube video in order to get the full storyline. But watching the series as a whole is somewhat whole different level of experience, right? But I don't regret it. The plot is the only important concern for me, so I do enjoy the storyline even though I didn't watch the series. So the main reason I didn't watch the series is this series has been available in India via Amazon Prime only. So I do, if you do watch my previous videos, I do took the Amazon Prime subscription in February month in order to watch the Wheel of Time series. And when I do search this in the Google, and I get to know that Spartacus series is that been in the Amazon Prime, I do click down to watch this series, but it has been showing that this has been only available for premium members, which we gotta need to pay for nearly 2000 Indian rupees in order to watch the series. But I mean, I have already been a Prime member. If you are giving a basic pay to an online platform, you gotta need to have the accessibility in order to access all the videos on the platform, right? I mean, you can give the additional features like ad-free, or you can able to watch this series on Blu-ray, and can able to access this on two devices. You can able to increase the prices for all these features, but just wanting to access a video from the site, and this has been asking to have an higher amount in order to get subscribed to this. I mean, I'm really very disappointed with that method. I mean, Amazon Prime got a need to have an do want to get a concern about all these things. I mean, you can. I'm not blaming the price. I mean, for 600 rupees, it is worth the subscription. But in order to watch all the videos in the platform, the basics pay should be well and truly enough. So yeah, that's the reason I didn't watch the series. But anyway, I do enjoy this whole storyline. So yeah. So what's your thoughts on the series? Do comment that in the comment section. And I will meet you soon in the Gathering Storm book review. So stay tuned. Until then, tata bye. I will meet you soon enough. Cheers.